And we return. Okay, so, let's start the replay again. Okay, as you can see, my opponent has his 2 Void Rays. He's getting 2 more out right now, and I have no sound, so that's interesting enough. Oh, there it is. Okay, we have sound, so everything is good. Yes. Alright, he's now up to 4 Void Rays. I am starting to build my first set of turrets. Seems like a fairly solid plan, seeing as I don't have nearly enough Marines, once again. I have my tech lab up. I'm researching combat shields, so the Marines will have a little bit more life. I probably should have gone for Stimpack first, but all the same, like, this will keep them pretty valuable against the Void Rays. Okay, so my opponent is building a fleet beacon, which means he's going to be going for flux veins pretty quick here, or carriers, of course. And he's getting up his first new gateway, which he desperately needs. So now he'll be able to produce some ground troops. I, on the other hand, am not particularly worried about ground troops, because I know I sniped his gateway. I know he's building Void Rays pretty exclusively, so as a result I'm building pretty much nothing but Marines, and I'm getting that reactor on my starport so I can start to produce Vikings and medevacs. Alright, my barracks is just sitting over here. I believe I plan to use it to scout later, but with the Void Rays around, who knows what'll happen. So we have the orbital command, and starting to whip in some more mules. I feel like I've got enough turrets up here to keep them protected. Basically, as long as I don't do anything too stupid, it should be pretty decent. My opponent still hasn't attacked those Void Rays, so he's pretty much lost the element of surprise. As a result, I'm pretty well prepared. I've rung in with turrets quite extensively, and since I know he's not producing very many ground troops, I don't really have any problems with just building these in such close range of each other and spending so much money on these turrets. However, I'm still planning on getting an expansion out pretty quick here, so as a result I'm going to start putting turrets down over here. And here comes my opponent. He does have those flux veins on the Void Rays, so they're moving quite fast now. That's more than enough to take down 1 or 2 turrets, but I think he's going to test my defenses first. I have my Marines here. Yep. Turret gets shot off. I've got a turret there as well. So he's just moving around looking for a weak point. He doesn't want to engage those turrets directly without getting a charge. He doesn't have any sort of building that he can get a charge off of other than the turrets, so yeah, the turrets is going to pretty well repel him, even though he probably could take a turret down. But in any case, my Marines are definitely in the right spot. First turret up here is keeping him well and truly out of there, and he's going to try and run in, and once again I think he's just going to get shot down. And there he is, right behind the mineral line. That actually gave him pretty good... the fact that he didn't have to... my turrets didn't have vision up there really helped him out there, because he was in a pretty bad spot. So he's got those 5, didn't really take any damage, just took a little shield damage, but I'm feeling a little bit more confident now. I've got my command center already building. This SCV is trapped, and he's trying to build a turret, but he's trapped, so he can't do that. The fleet beacon is still up. More Void Rays are morphing in. There are 4 gateways here, and he is researching his warp gate tech because he wants ground troops. My Marines, I just don't feel like I have enough of them to really stop that Void Ray nonsense right there, and I'm not really sad that I didn't build that many barracks, because I do have these Vikings up, and obviously the Marines aren't going to be that great against the Void Rays when they have the flux veins. They can just run around my base and kill me as much as they want. So I noticed I was pretty quiet when I was watching what I had of this replay, or of this cast. I hope I'm talking a little bit louder now. Hope you guys can hear me pretty well. If not, well, that sucks for you, I guess. So once again, okay, there's my first medevac. I'm still not very good with drops, so I'm probably not going to be doing anything special with that other than using it to heal my Marines after they stim. There's the Void Rays taking down the barracks. If I'd been smart, I would have attempted to scout with it. However, obviously I know he has fleet beacon tech. I have scammed him at least once or twice up here, so I think I will find out about those gateways if I haven't already. Yep, there's the scam, so I know that he's... yeah, this scan is really good for me, because I know that he's blowing up that pylon, which means I know that he's expanding, because he's taking down his wall in, either to move troops out or to expand, so I can be prepared for either. My opponent is in fact setting up his expansion, and he's got his gateways up, so he can actually start to warp in units that aren't Void Rays now, which is good, because his Void Rays are not exactly the best against what I've got, which is Vikings and Marines. The Vikings, I know I don't have enough of these Vikings, I'm quite certain of it, in fact. Normally Vikings are an excellent counter to Void Rays, because they can just just kite them all day long. This guy went very early for Flux Veins, which, when you have Flux Veins up, I really believe that it makes Void Rays the capital ship of the Protoss fleet. Like carriers, they're just too slow moving, they don't deal enough damage. The Void Rays, they do have to get their charge off, and he's charging off those destructible rocks, which is a bright idea until he doesn't do it anymore. Okay, now he's actually doing it, and that's actually going to be somewhat beneficial for me, but he's only got 2 charges, so... And I've moved in on his base, which has, of course, somewhat disrupted his plan to just run in and try and beat crud out of me with fully charged Void Rays. One of the great things about Void Rays, one of the poor things about Void Rays, really. I do have quite a lot of Vikings here. I'm not feeling confident enough to try and take those Stalkers on top, especially with the Void Rays up to support. I know the Void Rays are charging on that Incinerator because I can see them, so I'm going to stim up and try and run away. My Medevac's going to try and get some heals on. Medevac's going to get caught in the fire, though. Yep. And there come the Vikings. They're going to try and kite, and they're doing a pretty good job of it, but the Void Rays are just too fast and they do too much damage to armored units. They're not fully charged, but they're still just taking down the Vikings, and they can do that till the cows come home, so... now those Void Rays, however, they are pretty low in number, and I am certainly willing to trade with the Protoss army at this tech level. It's just good common sense, really, when I have Navi's army advantage, when I have the econ advantage, when I have that nice, excellent, just sort of ring around my base. Obviously, I'm feeling pretty well protected. A critical mouse of Void Rays could, of course, break through, but he's not going to have that anymore because I've killed off most of his Void Rays with a giant amount of Marines. And now he's warping in Zealots and Stalkers to compensate. He's going to start working towards a really serious ground push. I am building a few more turrets. I know, once again, that critical mass of Void Rays could be something of a problem. This is actually way too many turrets, of course, but I guess I just really like the sort of spacing around my base, and sometimes I'll do that just for the heck of it. I obviously have really well protected this particular expansion, and that's going to be very helpful, of course. The turreting up is going to stop me from ending the game in any quick fashion, but at the same time, the Protoss did have the early tech level. He managed to get the Void Rays out without me really stopping him, so I'm not in the greatest position for a timing push, so I'm perfectly willing to just sit back and let him wait, apart from the fact that during this game I was actually on my lunch break and had to finish it about 10 minutes earlier than I did finish it. Yeah, so there are some Vikings. There's quite a few of them. I'm obviously still worried about Void Rays, but basically I just want to have a decent... But even if I weren't worried about Void Rays, I do want to have a decent amount of them in the sky, because I know he's got Fleet Beacon tech. I know there's going to be carriers at some point, or obviously more Void Rays is always an option. And I am getting up my armories, because I want to upgrade ship weapons, and I want to build Thors. Both of those are just... Thors are obviously excellent units against Void Rays. They're okay against carriers, but they're also really good against ground forces, and I know he's got some of those. My opponent has DTs. He's actually warped in 4 DTs, which is a fairly clever move, except that I do have this nice ring of missile turrets, so I'm always going to be able to see them. So now he comes charging in. I've got a bunch of Marines. I'm going to go ahead and try and micro out of this. He has the superior army force, I think, just in terms of... He's got the Stalkers to shoot down the Vikings. He doesn't have enough Void Rays, though, so obviously I can't control him that way. I'm going to land my Vikings in order to get the ground advantage here, and since the Void Rays aren't paying attention... okay, now the Void Rays are there, so I'm going to lift off, shoot him down, and at that point I've clearly won this round. I can just sit down, kill off the remaining Dark Templar with my turrets detecting. I did lose all of my SCVs down there in the progress. It's the last tab. Yeah, I've lost a lot more units than him, but I've actually lost a lot less resources worth of units than him. So obviously he's been in my pylon line, he's been really damaging my income. On the income, we have 35 harvesters to 24, and I'm not mining anything at this point because my SCV just mined out my first base. He, on the other hand, is just getting his expansion saturated, and he's mined out his base as well. So, in just a second here, I should be catching up with him somewhat. I still don't have enough harvesters. He's oversaturated on this line, but that's alright. I'm feeling pretty confident because I think, have the higher army value. I have a very high army value here, in fact. He's only got 500 minerals worth of units. And I actually thought that he was in a much stronger position than this, but obviously he expanded fairly slowly and he's not saturating very well, so my Vikings are in a pretty superior position. Except that, of course, they're not all that well suited against stalkers. I'm sending these Vikings in to pick off lone void rays or carriers or anything that should come out of the Stargate, also to scout and possibly make an attack on the mineral line. I know he has stalkers, of course. He's warping those stalkers there, which is an excellent position because it allows him to get this nice pincer off on me. And yeah, now he's going to get a couple of free shots off on my Vikings and kill 2 of them off. And he might even get a third. Does he have blink? He does not have blink. So, yeah. Pishwir has his fleet beacon. He should go for a mothership. I know he doesn't have sight up here because he doesn't have a robotics bay, he doesn't have an observer. He obviously hasn't been building anything from his Stargate other than stalkers, so I'm just going to land there, take out a pylon. I did lose that Viking in the process, but, you know, little picks. Okay, so I'm expanding again right here, and I believe I want to take this game to a better economic level. I know for a fact that he's just, he doesn't have the forces really to deal with me, but at the same time my army is pretty defensive. Like, the Vikings would be a really nice choice if he had more air, and I might have been able to end the game right there, but he did switch to a ground tech army, so now that I know about it, I'll have the air superiority no matter what happens, but I'm going to start pushing out Thors, I'm going to start putting out some Marauders, and I do have infantry level 1, and I probably will be upgrading some vehicle, or both vehicle and ship weapons, so we're going to get ourselves in a nice position. The Thors are up here. That's an excellent spot for them to be, but of course that's mainly just because they can't get through the supply wall. So, looks like they can't even get through those missile turrets, so they're going to wander all the way around there and get right in front of the army and in front of my expansion, which is a good spot for them to be. Very good intuition on my part here, scanning the rocks as soon as I see and immediately I see that those rocks have been destroyed. I could go for my own gold expansion, but I'm feeling a little sneaky today, so I am going to just put an expansion here and not pay any attention to it, or saturate it, or do anything with it. This is not a solid choice here. I am building a second command center down here, which I'm going to lift off and move down to the corner, because I know for a fact that he doesn't really have air superiority right now. He is building his first carriers, but those are going to take a while to get out, and I'll still have the Vikings, I'll still have the Marines, I'll still have the Thors, so his fleet beacon tech is basically not a good idea at this point. I have some extra Hellions. That's mainly because I had extra money. They're not really going to be all that useful against that many things. They're good against DTs, they're good against Zealots. He's going to have a couple of those, so, but mainly it was just sort of because I didn't have enough production facilities, so I just churned as many units as I could so I could get a nice, solid, well-composed army out, and be ready for anything. Sending those Hellions in to make sure that there isn't a base, and, well, actually everything was attacking there, but the Hellions are going to scout it first. Not going to walk them into that spot since it's a very good just sort of trap for anyone. If you really, really wish to die, you can move right in there. My opponent is going for a huge ground army. He's got those Zealots in there. He has not worked in any DTs yet, but I know he's got that shrine, and he may just try it. Yep. There we come. Okay, so now we get into a really nice good fight here. I'm having a little trouble getting all of my troops in position to shoot at them. I can hear... Yeah, I heard those DTs almost immediately, laid down the scan in time to save my army. So now the Thors... One of the Thors is getting distracted by those lovely little interceptors, which is very bad for me, and all of the Thors, I think, are getting distracted by those lovely little interceptors. They do need to be shooting at those stalkers. Fortunately, I have enough Marauders to make it very problematic for him to try anything of that sort. I have these Vikings on the ground, so I don't have sight. I'm going to lift off so I can get sight. The Marauders will shoot down the remaining stalkers. The Thors are up there. My Vikings are shooting down the carriers. But I have lost my army. Once again, I still feel like it's a safe idea to trade with the army at this point, especially when he's trying to do things like build large amounts of carriers. If you want to know the counter to carriers, it's don't let your opponent get too many carriers. That's really the only rule that there is. Like, basically, the reason that carriers are so bad is that they're so slow and they're so just economically unsolvent. That's the word I was looking for, I